We really got into real estate to give more money back to a ministry, to people who needed it.
When we started real estate, Chad's idea behind it was, we'll keep working and this will give us extra to give away.
I just knew we were going to have 10% for us, have another 10% for their church or their affiliation, whatever they wanted to give it to, and then 5% just for like an emergency fund, just for in case somebody needed something. We just went with 25%. It's really not my money, it's somebody else's money, and I'm just kind of the vessel to get
We're
it
trying
somewhere.
to be good stewards of it.
Right.
We're trying to impact other people in a positive way. That's the best way that we know how to do it, is to give into ministries and give into churches and
people who are in situations where they're without. But we both like to serve, and so that's why this giving back came from a place of like, that's what we want to do. We want to be able to serve others well. It's not just, I'm going to go so I can make this money for myself. Like, I get to help somebody else. And so that kind of means more to us in the long run.
Ready? Ready to rock and roll? Is that action? All right. Okay.
That's right.
All right.
Absolutely. Go, go, go.
Hello, everybody. It's Jason Will with
Go.
So this is a real estate podcast, but we talk about leadership, personal growth, and becoming the best version of yourself. Leadership, check 1, 2, check 1, 2. Growth, best version of yourself.
Go.
So this is a real estate podcast. All right, welcome everybody back to the Impact Agent Podcast. I am your host, Jason Will, and I am really excited to welcome the Franklins of Birmingham into the studio today. How are y'all doing?
We're doing great. Thank you for having us.
Well, just take a minute to introduce yourselves, and then we'll get down to the meat and potatoes of why you guys are here.
All right, I'm Chad Franklin, born and raised in Birmingham. I'm from Trussville. We're selling real estate with LAH Real Estate.
My name is Macey Franklin, and then I am from Montgomery, Alabama, and love living in Birmingham. I wouldn't change it for anything.
Awesome. Well, I've been following y'all on social media. I wouldn't call it stalking. I'd call it following. And you guys have a great story. And this podcast is all about people who have been impacted or are making an impact. And I can't think of, a real estate couple that is doing something as impactful as y'all are doing in the way that you give back, but it's also very unique in the way that you give back and very generous, I would say. But before we get into all that, I wanted to talk about, how you guys got started on this real estate journey. So who wants to take it?
Yeah, I'll go. I think it really got started I was going through a hard time with my career, and there's some things that happened that maybe weren't great, and I decided that I needed a backup plan. Macy's work was fantastic. She works for somebody that was really fantastic to her, and so I needed a backup plan for myself. And so I just kind of decided that I thought we would be really good at it, and my family was in it. My dad's an appraiser. My brother's an appraiser. My uncle manages properties. My grandmother was an agent a while back, and so
You've just been exposed to that growing up your whole life.
Yeah, my dad built houses, so I was kind of around that growing up a little bit too, and so just kind of all together, I thought maybe the real estate world would be good for us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's in his blood, right?
Yes, it is in his blood. He decided it was going to be a backup plan for him, and I was like, okay, great, that's good. You know what? I think that's a great thing for you because it's part of your life and your whole family's been in it. And he was like, no, I think we need to do it together. And that's when I put the brakes on because I was like, nope, not going back to school. I don't need more on my plate than I have. I don't need that. Yeah. And then a little bit later, he signed himself up for real estate school, I guess, more or less. And then he was like, oh, yeah, here's your username and password, too. And I was like, for what? He was like, I signed you up.
Surprise.
So I signed both of us up.
That's how, I got into real estate first, and then my wife got into real estate, and now she's in mortgage. But when we were working together, I just found it was just such a great yin and yang because I'm sure you've seen on listing appointments, the husband probably takes you in one direction, the wife takes you in another direction. And there's just a great deal of trust around like this husband and wife team concept. I think people seek out husband and wife teams.
Yeah, so we're total opposites when it comes to stuff like this. I think I might think this should be an issue, and Macy thinks this should be an issue. Like we go through a house, and I'm like, oh, the kitchen looks okay, but where's the bathroom? Where's the master bathroom? And so you get kind of two perspectives of what we think too.
Yeah, and we try to do it a little bit different to where we're involved in every part of the transaction together. So we typically don't split with people. So usually when you get one of us, you get both of us. So showings, buying, selling, listing, all the things, you get 2 opinions on everything. You get 2 eyeballs on everything. You get 2 pieces of marketing on everything. And it does help us having separate opinions because we catch things 4 eyes are better than 2.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, yes.
Yeah, the way I've traditionally seen it is, one kind of gravitates towards the seller side and one kind of gravitates toward the buying side, and maybe one is kind of more operational, which I know that's probably Chad on that side.
Yes.
But that's interesting. That I'm sure you get a lot of great positive feedback from your clients about that.
Yeah, it's funny because when we do work, like we've worked with a lot of first-time home buyers, which we love that process because, we're getting to teach them everything and walk them through it. But most of them, they'll go have friends. They're like, yeah, my friend bought a house, but they only had 1 agent. I told them we had 2 and they were so surprised. And I was like, wow, I think we do it a little bit differently. But we love doing it together. And I think our clients appreciate that too.
Yeah, it's so unique. Okay, so, I know you got into real estate. You needed a backup plan, but there was more to it than that, right?
That's right. Yeah. So we really got into real estate to give more money back to a ministry, to people who needed it, just kind of give money to, I kind of grew up like that. My parents would help people out. If you needed something, my parents would be the first one to go buy it for you. And so a lot of my friends and I just learned that. And so it was not really a foreign concept for me.
He enjoys giving. So he's the
Yeah,
first person to pay for somebody's meal or do something like that. And when you have, set careers where you can't control your income, like being able to give to others, you're kind of limited. So we would give where we could, and we tithed and we did all the steps, but we didn't have excess. And so when we started real estate, Chad's idea behind it was, we'll keep working and this will give us extra to give away. That's when I decided, okay, yeah, let's get our licenses and we'll do it together. That's when I got on board.
Yeah.
And then he decided how we were going to structure it.
Yeah, how did you come up with that plan?
So I just knew we were going to have 10% for us, and then I thought it would be cool to have another 10% for their church or their affiliation, whatever they wanted to give it to, and then a 5% just for like an emergency fund, just for in case somebody needed something or anything like that. So I kind of just came up with 25% and said it's a lot, but here it is. We kind of just went with 25%.
So 10% goes to either their church or their favorite kind of philanthropic organization. And then the other 10%, you give them some options of where it might go?
Yes. So the 10% tithe part that we hold back goes to their church or wherever they choose.
Okay.
The next 10% goes to a ministry that we support that does homeless ministry, marriage ministry, family ministry. They have men's and women's. I mean, they have all kinds of places that they reach out. And so then we're involved in their marriage ministry, but then we let them choose kind of what category they want it to go to, because not everybody has a heart for every thing. So like if we said all we wanted to do was marriage ministry, well, some of our clients are single, so why would they want to give to that? And so they might choose homeless ministry or children's ministry. So we wanted them to be able to have a choice where their money's going, because essentially it's, their money because they've made the process for us.
Yeah.
Technically not our money.
Right.
That's the way we see it.
I mean, that's kind of the way I see it. I mean, it's the seller's paying, right?
Yeah.
So it's really not my money. It's somebody else's money, and I'm just kind of the vessel to get
We're trying
to be
good stewards of it.
Right.
And then the extra 5%, we call it like a 911 bucket. We put it back and we hold on to it for when we see situations or have people reach out to us for needs. If somebody's house burnt down, or, somebody's going through a hard time and lost their job, or any type of need like that. If somebody reaches out to us, we try to figure out where we can give and how we can be beneficial to that person with that extra 5%.
How do y'all introduce this to your clients?
So usually what we do is set a listing appointment or meeting. Of course, we go over all the real estate stuff, and then we just kind of throw in there at the end. And by the way, there's 25% of everything that, we get paid, we give back. You get to choose this 20% essentially, and then we put 5% back for emergency needs. And people are usually like, wait, go back again?
Yeah.
Because, they just discuss with us what commissions we're going to charge and what we do for them and all these things. And then we're like, oh, and by the way, 25% of that we don't keep. And so a lot of them, you can tell it's like I'm making the right decision because I'm getting to give it back too. Like they feel involved at that point. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah, I guess we try to make them involved in every aspect of it, not just the giving back, but I mean, obviously when you're the seller, we want to keep you updated on everything that's going on. So constant communication, and then they're also involved with where some of the money's going. So people like it.
Yeah. I mean, it's all been positive feedback.
It's
Nobody said like any objection to it ever. I mean, I can't imagine somebody ever objected. But
we've had people go like, you know what, y'all obviously know people who need things. Do whatever you want with it. And so those people will hold back 15%, and we'll hold that for emergencies because they're like, I want to help somebody who really needs it. And so we'll hold that back and then make the decision of where to put that. But in the beginning, when we decided on the 25%, we went ahead and committed to that so that we would never do anything else with it. So like as soon as we get our paycheck, we automatically put it into different accounts. We have an Excel sheet we keep with it to make sure we're keeping that money where it's supposed to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you kept track of like how much the tally is, the money you've given back? You don't have to share the number.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So
it's big.
It's on an Excel sheet somewhere on our computer. So, I mean, I don't know the exact number. I couldn't tell you.
But it's been good.
It's been very impactful.
And I guess that's the whole thing is like, we're talking about impact, and this is a podcast for impact. I mean, we're trying to impact other people in a positive way. And so that's the best way that we know how to do it, is to give into ministries and give into churches. And
people who are in situations where they are without.
Yeah, this 911 fund. And then you guys, talked off mic about how you like to do things in secret, like help people without getting any benefit of them knowing where it came from. So you're not given to get. You're just totally given for the joy of giving, which is really awesome.
Yes, we like to do things to where it's not about us. Yeah. That's why this kind of makes me nervous being on a podcast. But and that's why we really don't advertise what we do as far as giving back, is because we never want to be in the place where like we're putting ourselves on a pedestal instead of the real reason it's being done.
Yeah.
And so we always want to make sure that we hold ourselves accountable to making sure it's not about us.
If you kind of break it down too, I would imagine that this provides some accountability for y'all to do things that maybe you don't want to do, or maybe you don't feel like doing. Like, I don't know where your business comes from, but sometimes some of our prospecting methods or some of the things we have to do are uncomfortable, or they're hard, they're difficult. We have to have difficult conversations with sellers, and and I would imagine if this was floating in the back of your mind, like, hey, I've got to be brutally honest with this seller because their house smells like cigarette smoke, and we're probably not going to be able to sell it unless they remediate it. But there's this bigger picture here, like overwhelming accountability to sell more. I mean, the sky's the limit, right?
It definitely makes you, in the back of your head, you're going, I gotta get this listing, or I got to find this house for this person.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't want to say you're outworking somebody else for the listing, but you're definitely working hard for it because we know where the money's going.
But we both like to serve. And so that's why this giving back came from a place of like, that's what we want to do. We want to be able to serve others well. We both come from service industries. So, I'm a dental hygienist and an office manager, and so I serve. He's a special ed teacher, which is a big servanthood. And so for us, when we go to do listings and we go to, and we go look with buyers, like our first attitude is how can we serve them and how can we get this done so that therefore we do have more to give away. It's not just a paycheck. It's also something to where we get to give away and help others. So yes, you're right. It's not just, I'm going to go so I can make this money for myself. Like, I get to help somebody else. And so that kind of means more to us in the long run.
Yeah, there's a lot of research around the fact that money doesn't necessarily motivate people. They may think it does, but it really doesn't. But the other thing that I find when I'm trying to, coach and train, especially new agents, is that they're not connected to anything. They have ideas, and a lot of times they're big, grand ideas, and some of them are fantasies, which will never come true. But they, at the end of the day, if you ask them why they're doing it, like what's their reason, what's their motivation, they can't tell you. And I think, this podcast is going to be inspirational in a lot of ways. But one thing that was just kind of unexpected, that it's just kind of come out of just the brief conversation we've had thus far, is just how big of a motivational thing this is. Like how this is like your why, and how, I don't know. I mean, you talk to anybody that counsels people that are in depression, and they say the fastest way to get out of depression is go do something for somebody else.
It's so true.
It would be awesome if this podcast inspired people to do what you're doing. And they may start out, their heart may not, because I don't know. I mean, I don't know many people whose hearts are as genuine as y'all's, but they may start out doing it for themselves, going, all right, I'm gonna start doing this. I need to do something. I need to get back in some way, and they'll find this why. They'll find this big, something that's really bigger than themselves,
Absolutely.
which would be really cool.
I think it's hard to start out and you think, man, we're going to give away 25%.
Oh yeah, that
It's
was
such a big
that was
number.
that was a big number. When he proposed that to me, I was like, brakes again. I do that a lot. I'm the breaker.
You're the
But
brakes.
I am. I'm the brakes. He's the gas, 100%, especially when it comes to giving and doing. But then I sat there and he said, babe, I prayed about it, and that's what's on my heart. Like, 25% is the number. I can't tell you why. It just is. And so
But
then
we were never struggling to begin with.
Yeah,
Right?
because you both have other incomes.
Right. So, it was like, this is going to be extra, so why not? And so, I know this podcast, people are going to listen to it and think 25%, that's a lot, but it is a lot.
But once you commit, you just have to commit to
Yeah.
what you're going to do. You have to get your mind in that situation or in that, okay, this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to do it, and stay committed to that. Don't change it, because we're all human. Like I said, when we get that paycheck and we're writing checks to churches and we're writing out checks, it's a lot of money. But instead of sitting there and going, oh man, I could have done XYZ with this money, we're going, oh great, we get to do this. It comes back twofold. And we were talking about that. Like, when we give, it always comes back. Somebody calls us and goes, hey, I've got to sell my house. And it's this perfect time and the perfect situation. And it is always after we send out the money. I mean, we'll have times where we're so busy that we're holding on to it. We haven't sent it out yet. And I'm like, babe, we've got to do our giving, got to make sure we give that. He goes and writes the checks, and it's literally like a day later, somebody's like, hey, I need to buy a house. Can y'all help me? Right. Never fails.
Yeah.
And it's just, for us, it's just a God thing. It's what we feel called to do. And I think it's just setting your mind, though, and committing to that and knowing this is what I want to do. This is how much I'm going to do. Structure yourself, discipline yourself to do that. And then it becomes something that I love doing it.
Right. Well, I've done some podcasts in the past, and I probably need to send at least one of them to y'all, but building a kingdom-minded business. Mm-hmm. And this is exactly what it sounds like. I know some people aren't going to agree with this, but if you are a true Christian, then everything you do is to honor God, right? So this is, like, you guys are running the epitome of a kingdom-minded business, which is awesome. And if people are listening, not everybody can afford, not everybody can have two full-time jobs, let's be honest. We've talked about that. There's no such thing as a successful part-time agent, but I know that, and I've had friends who've worked 60 hours a week in one job and, maybe 40 hours a week in real estate. So that's not in everybody's DNA. Mm-hmm. This could be the start. They could start just tithing. Who knows?
The number doesn't really matter, right? And that's when I say I don't want it to be about us, it just matters your heart. So take away our 25%. If we were given 5% and that was what we could give, then we're doing it with a good heart, it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. So as long as you're doing for others, and sometimes it can't start out as a money thing. It can start out as a service thing. You go and you serve at the homeless shelter. You serve, giving your time also equals your money. And then you can get into a state of mind where you're like, okay, I see where this is going. And then you will find your passion for what you want to give it to and what you want to be devoted to and what feeds you, because it does. It feeds your soul and your passion and your heart to do for others. It's not just, I'm just going to do this out of obligation. It's because we want to do it.
It's not obligated.
It's not a have to, I get to type thing. And there was such a big jump from your first and your second years in real estate. I just wonder, that first year, you're trying to figure it all out. I would think that you're the first real estate team or couple that I've ever met, even if you look at an individual agent, that had that big of a jump from year one to year two. Can you walk us through that? Like, what?
So year one, it was kind of like,
what did we get ourselves into?
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of was. And we just kind of learned a lot. They always tell you don't learn until you get thrown in the fire, Right. And that's kind of what happened. We learned a whole lot watching people kind of experiencing it ourselves. And so that first year was pretty brutal, but we
had
learned
lots of
a
questions
ton. And then I think people kind of just saw that, hey, they're doing this thing. And then that next year, it kind of just started rolling. But I think people kind of saw us that at the end of that first year, we closed maybe like 3 or 4 that were in like September to December. And then it really just almost like picked up from there. Our second year, January, we sold 3 houses. And I was like, whoa, all right, so this is going to be good.
Yeah.
You know, and so then it just kind of kept going. And so once we did a lot of Facebook stuff, we did a lot of Instagram, we did a lot of social media, but then it was just a lot of word of mouth too. Our friends.
It's mainly word of mouth.
Our
We haven't
friends-
paid for any type of advertising or anything. It's just, again, we like to serve, and so we like to think that we serve well.
We've got a lot of good friends that have put word in for us too. So, I mean, anytime in a conversation our friends are having and something comes up about a house, they're I would say our friends probably have gotten us a ton of business. I couldn't tell you the exact number, but
we also pour into those people. So, the minute somebody sends us something, we go back to them and like, hey, thank you for that. We send gift cards when we close a deal with somebody who you sent to us. We send you a gift card and a thank you. And again, it's not about us and keeping our money. It's about others, right? And so they feel comfortable and confident in sending us their friend. We want to take care of their friend and do a good job. And we also want to take care of them because they trust us.
Yeah, it's awesome. What's a success story you can share with us on your giving? What have any of these organizations reached back out to you and said, hey, man, you wouldn't believe the impact you made on a conference or event? Or
We do. We give to a Stained Glass Ministries as a ministry, and their marriage ministry is kind of a big deal for us because we've seen it make a big impact in other marriages. We've got good friends who have been impacted by it, and essentially had their marriages saved in the counseling that they've had through them. So what we did is they have a conference every year called Together at the Springs. And last year, anything extra that we had that people had said, you just do whatever you want with it because we're going to trust you're going to do well with it. We gave it to them to give scholarships to their marriage conference because there's a lot of people who can't afford a $200 weekend, but it's a $200 weekend that for us is worth everything because they can get there and hear the word and learn about their marriage and grow their marriage. And, it gives you good conversation together. But
and it's
anyway,
a weekend away with no distractions.
yeah.
So I think that's the bigger thing. If you can get people away with no distractions, no kids, no job they got to go to, nothing they got to worry about, then it can be impactful.
Yeah.
But we feel strongly about that, how important marriage is, because that's what supports our society. That's where children get raised well, all the things. So after last year's conference, we gave a lot of scholarships. I don't even remember the number of them, but he called Chad and he just said, like, the people that your scholarships went to, those people were the people that came to us and said, this has meant everything for our marriage. And so for us, it's worth it. The dollar amounts don't matter. None of that matters to us as long as it makes that impact. And if those couples can come and say, this weekend is going to help me change my marriage, then it's worth it for us.
Well, just switching gears, this just kind of popped in my mind. I just was wondering about it. But do you ever have any issues with your current employers? Because they obviously have to see how big your business is growing. Do they ever come to you nervous and go, hey, are we going to lose you? Like, are y'all going to go full-time? Like full-time? Because you are full-time. But, is any of that happening? And then also, how do you keep your devotion to your 9 to 5s or whatever, 8 to 4s, without letting this creep in with the volume you guys are doing?
We work a lot.
Yeah.
So when we started, my job I just absolutely love. I love the people I work with. The doctor I work for is amazing. And so when we started, I went to her and I was like, I want to tell you what this is. We're starting real estate because we want to be able to give. And we set it all up for her. And she was like, 100% support that. And she's been super supportive of us. And she likes all of our posts and our just kind of supports us and everything.
Yeah.
And so I work Monday through Thursday, typically 8 to 5. During the summer, I'm like 8 to 3. And so when I get home, I'm contracts and closing stuff and documents and all that. Chad's a teacher, a special education teacher, and so he has the whole summer off. And, summer is our busiest time. And so During the summer, he's communicating and doing all the paperwork. But he teaches 8 to 3. And so at 3, most people work. And so we're not showing houses at noon in the middle of the day because
True.
most people have jobs. And so if they're a teacher, they get off at 3:30. Chad meets them over there after he gets done with school and he shows houses. But most people want 5:30, 6 o'clock showings. And so it's like we didn't even miss a beat.
They know, we tell them straight up what we're doing. They know that, I mean, unless it's just something they've got to go see, a house they've got to get
We
in.
have other agents in our field that'll go look at it and help them go see it. But we really haven't had to, it's just such a blessing because we've never had a situation, I haven't, where it's conflicted with all of our careers have conflicted. Yeah. It's all just worked flawlessly together, all of them. I know we have lots of hands. So when we first started that first year, most people were skeptical, like, how are you going to do real estate and still have your jobs? And it's like, we can do it. We don't have children. And so for us, it was, we're very much so, if we commit to it, we're going to get it done. And so that's kind of what happened. And it's just been awesome ever since.
Do y'all have an assistant, or is it just the two of y'all? Or wow. So eventually, if it gets much bigger, that may be a hire.
Yes, we might have to look at getting somebody on board for that. We've talked about that. Right now, we've got so many transactions going. We keep them very organized so they don't, get out of hand. But I told him, I was like, it would be nice to have somebody either have a team or have somebody who just handles the paperwork, because we always want to deal with the client. I have a hard time letting that go. But when we get to all the paperwork and the logistics, then that is something that somebody else could have. But I have a hard time. I always want to deal with the client.
Yeah, you have a hard time. It's hard to delegate and give somebody else control when you're so used to controlling everything. And making sure that, because
it's done right.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell y'all are meticulous and want to provide a great experience. It's hard to pass that on to just anybody, right? It's got to be the right person. All right, well, tell us if people want to do business with the Franklins of Bham, how do they reach out to y'all? How do they get in touch?
We will answer our phone and text you anytime. My number's 334-221-6577.
Yes, mine's 205-965-9136. And our email is franklinsofbham@lahrealestate.com. And, give us a shout. We got a website, too, at LAH. And so they can text us, call us, email us.
Website is franklinsofbham.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing. I really do hope this inspires somebody who's listening to either give in some way. It wouldn't even really have to be a financial way, because you've talked about just serving. Like, just become more service-minded and let it evolve naturally from there. So what an amazing story. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Impact Agent Podcast. If you liked the show and got something out of it, please like the Impact Agent Podcast on Facebook and rate and review the show on iTunes or anywhere you listen to podcasts. This really helps us grow the show and helps other agents find it. Please share it with your friends and coworkers as well. You want us to deliver the show to you via email every week? Then email me at jason@impactagentuniversity.com and we'll send you the show every week. Please let us know what you think about the show, what you like, what you don't, or possibly make a suggestion about a topic you want to hear. Email me at jason@impactagentuniversity.com or leave us a message on Facebook at Impact Agent Podcast. Until next week, everybody be productive, safe, and happy, and always keep learning. This podcast is produced by Johnny Gwynn at Deep Fried Studios in Mobile, Alabama, and is paid for and powered by ImpactAgentUniversity.com.